Hey guys, Jean here. We're about to read chapter 3 of the fanfiction How to Survive the Apocalypse Without Coffee. This time I am staying away from the microphone. I'm sorry, last time I didn't really do that. So I'm hoping now it's better. It's at least like maybe a foot and a half away from me now. So I hope this is better and it doesn't sound like I'm trying to make out with the microphone. Unlike last time, I'm sorry about that. Chapter 3, Step 3. Consciousness came quickly, but left him groggy. His whole body ached. His neck was stiff because of his poor sleep posture. Max groaned, forcing himself to become more aware of his surroundings. He was still in the forest, and all of his things were still below him. He was still in the tree. He slid down the side of the tree, rather ungracefully, but he landed on his feet with minimal scrapes. It was too early for this shit. He needed coffee, but of course, with his predicament, it would be quite difficult to get any, but he'd kill for some right now. Max crawled into the tent and stretched as he laid back on the ground. The earth beneath him was still and hard, but it was infinitely better than the tree. He spread out like a starfish. Max just wanted to go back to sleep, but he didn't. He had to go back to the house again before sundown, and Max knew he would sleep all day long if he had the chance. And now, since he was more awake, the static came back. The images came back. Max couldn't escape them, only when he was exhausted from what he could tell. Max groaned and forced himself up. Max decided he would leave the majority of his stuff here, keep the tent set up. Max pulled the duffel he got yesterday, and dumped all the shit he got out yesterday. He grabbed his axe and put it in the duffel, and the bat. He slung the bag over his shoulder and pulled himself out of the tent. He decided he needed to go ahead and head out. Max dragged his feet as he walked towards civilization. He didn't know why he was so tired. Well, he could give assumptions, but it could be any combination of the many problems he had currently. He tried to make himself more alert, but he felt disconnected from his surroundings. It pissed him off to no avail. Max finally found himself in front of a house. Max could have sworn he closed the door when he left yesterday. Max let out a low, throaty groan. Fuck, Max thought and raised his axe. There was definitely some corpses in here now. It had to be. It was his fucking luck. Max poked the door open with his axe. When the door stopped, Max backed away. Then, after hearing nothing, he snuck in, placing his back against the wall. He left the door slightly open, so he could make a quick escape if needed. Max's heart hurt from hitting his ribcage like a truck. He slid his back against any solid surface along the wall. Max's heart stopped when he saw his father's body had been moved. The blood stain was like paint on the ground, but the good shit, not the one that was peeling off the wall. Max heard a gunshot and took off. Whatever was in there was not fucking worth it. If there was gonna be someone shooting at him. Max sprinted, only hearing the thumping in his ears. He could feel the crunching beneath his feet, and he ran back to his tent. He shoved his overexhausted body into the tent, and laid there for a few minutes, heaving. It wasn't until he pushed himself up that he realized the searing pain in his left hand. Max bit his lip to refrain from screaming, but a muffled fuck was audible. He didn't see how he fucking missed the small spot, but obviously their hole through his hand. He dropped the axe to the ground. The fucker shot me, Max thought. Or maybe said he didn't know. He didn't care. Blood oozed from the wound. Max might be decent at treating most injuries, but his dad never kept a fucking gun in the house. Well, rather, Max never knew where he kept it. It was fucking New Jersey, and nonetheless in the suburbs of New York. Max just bit down into his hoodie, as he had nothing else to bite down on, and pulled out his first aid and sketching kit with his shaky right hand. At least it hurts, Max thought, his hood getting damper as he opened the first aid kit. If his left pinky and ring finger were getting numb, Max didn't acknowledge it. He pulled out the rubbing alcohol inside of the first aid kit. Max fumbled with it until he finally unscrewed the top and poured it. It felt like the wound was set on fire. Pain works. Pain keeps us alive. Pain is good. Pain is good. Pain is good. Max dropped the bottle, but most of it was gone by then, and only splashed out a little. Max cradled his hand to his chest. His vision went blurry as tears edged at his vision and slid down his cheek. He grabbed the gauze and dried his eyes and hands. Max forced his shaking hands to cooperate with him as he messed with the top of the stitching kit. Max had some butterfly stitches. It covered a small surface. This would work, right? Max's hands shook too bad in the free air, so he pinned his hand between his legs and wrestled with the stitches. Eventually, he got them to cover both sides, and to his annoyance and great fear, both sides continued to bleed. Max grabbed the bandages from the first aid kit and wrapped it up tight. He saw blood coming up slowly through the layers, like a blood blister, but it didn't quite reach the top. He couldn't feel his fingers, but this was a better alternative to bleeding out. Max laid the hurt ligament on his chest. He couldn't tell how long he just laid there, breathing, just doing an average human thing. A thing he could not have been doing right now if the person had missed or something. Whoever it was, they had a fucking awful shot. His head wasn't there. Hello? Max heard in the distance, and he tensed up. What the fuck, what the actual living fuck? This is it. I'm gonna fucking die. I can't defend myself like this. Max laid still. He heard rustling nearby, and he held his breath and shut his eyes. He heard a plastic rustle. A masculine voice yelled, Gwen! Oh my god, I think he's dead! He whimpered as he stumbled away. Max's shit was in his duffel. Just play dead. They'll go away. David, Gwen said with a done attitude, but went to the front of the tent. Suddenly, he felt hot breath down his neck and face. Max couldn't control his nerves after that. He punched her in the face and kicked her to the side as he scrambled out of the tent. Fuck that noise! Max began to run. But suddenly, long, lanky arms wrapped around his waist. Max was trapped. These fuckers were gonna kill him. He wasn't going to live to be a teen. He wasn't going to live to have sex, or to drink, or whatever teens and adults do. Here was where he was going to die, in a shitty excuse for a forced. He didn't have a way out. He was stuck, and Max felt his body go slack, but his mind was racing. He didn't know when they were going to hold a gun up to his head and just finish their job, but he knew it was coming. Max wanted to struggle, but he knew it was just going to make it worse on him. Either way, they were just going to hunt him until the end of his days if he was going to escape. End it now instead of suffering for days, weeks maybe. But Max didn't feel or hear anything. Maybe he died and he just didn't feel anything? But no, he could still feel the hot throbbing of his hand. Max slowly willed his eyes to open, and his eyes burnt even in the low light. Max was back inside his tent. He didn't remember how he got there. He was against the back wall of the tent, and the two adults were covering the exit. They were in a hushed but heated conversation, and Max slowly began to shift for his bat. If they were giving him the chance, he was going to do the only thing he could do. Disappoint them, then kill him. But as his body became uncurled, he saw the redheads? The girl's red hair was obviously dyed from before the event, and it was closer to brown now anyways. Anyway, they turned to him and stuck their heads out in a sign of peace. They're planning on how to kill you. Max's mind deadpanned, and Max crumpled again. The man crawled towards him. Max hissed at the redhead, and he flinched back. Max hid his injury behind his back. They may know about his injury, but they can't reach it as easily as they are to hurt him. Hey, kid, the woman finally spoke, throat raspy. Max warily looked up to her, and then looked away to the man again. You're the bastard that shot at me, aren't you? Max grounded out, trying to make him sound older and more tough than he actually was. Max could virtually feel the man's heart stop. No, that was her. Max saw her death glare at him. But, yes, that was us. We realized you were just a kid, the man choked out. I am not a kid for your information, you fucking cunt. Max swore, lying for the most part, but they didn't have to know that. He at least got them to pause. The woman spoke. Right. Listen, we want to take you back to our camp. Max didn't let her finish, jaw halfway dropped in disbelief. You fucking shot at me. Now you expect me to go anywhere with you? You've got to be shitting me. Take all my shit. I don't care about it. Just leave me the fuck alone and let me live. Jesus fuck. Max trailed off, running his right hand through his hair. The woman looked irritated. Listen here, Listen here, you little shit. Kiddo, listen. The man cut off the woman. We were expending that as a peace offering. We felt awful about it. We wanted to help you out. There's a bunch of, kids there. The man tried to make it sound enticing. Why, when you put it that way, absolutely. I'll go. Max snarked, but the man boy couldn't tell sarcasm. Fuck no, you could take my organs. You could be some sick fucks trying to turn me into a fucking corpse, Max screeched. The man looked dejected. Okay. The woman took a breath towards the mouth of the tent. I can see that's your final answer. The woman motioned towards the redhead who sat frozen. Get your ass up, David. We need to get going if we're going to make it back before dark. David sat for another moment, before pulling out a pen and paper. He shoved it to the small boy after scribbling something down. Here's the address. Come by if you want. David whispered, then scurried back out. Again, we're sorry about your hand. We really didn't mean to. All right, have a good evening. They shouted outside of Max's tent. Bye, fucker. See you in hell. The woman's voice rang out. Max didn't move until her footsteps disappeared, and then he only peeked out to see if they were hiding. The sun was setting and they weren't anywhere to be seen. What the actual fuck was that? Chapter 4, Step 4. Max couldn't climb up the tree that night. Damn idiots. Almost getting me fucking killed. He zipped up the tent that night and slept. Slept meaning falling asleep for minutes, then waking up either hearing some noise or having a brief vision he was murdered by those corpses, or worse, the assholes that he met earlier that day. Max still wished he had coffee. He was so exhausted. His hand became stiff and sore as he laid there. Max felt sick once he could feel the warmth of day on his limbs. Even if it was winter, he felt warm and sticky and sluggish. Max didn't feel like moving at all. Nonetheless, he knew it was getting late in the day, and he needed to get something done today. Anything. Max sat up and sipped on a bottle of water. He needed more water. He was running out. Max weighed his options to do with the remaining time of the day as he stared into oblivion. Oh, I definitely can't go back to the fucking house now. Excuse me, he did not want to get shot again. Possibly, and killed this time. Max's injured hand throbbed in hot pain as he thought about it. He clenched his teeth. Guess we're getting late at the water today, Max decided. He pulled all the empty water bottles together and placed them into his backpack. Nearby, Max knew there was a lake. Max used to sit there all the time before all this shit. He'd come home a mess from jumping in it some days to piss his father off. But that was before, he guessed. Things were different now, and he was alone, as always. Max plopped down next to the lake and drew out the empty water bottle and absent-mindedly filled them. The scenery around him was actually green and thriving. If Max didn't know any better, he would have guessed that there was something wrong. But Max was smart. He'd like to think he's smarter than most kids. Actually, scratch that. He is smarter than most kids. Especially now that a lot of kids are dead. He was practically a genius. Max got up from his resting spot, once done, and packed up the water bottles to go back to the tent. He could not care to hit his hand after trying to put his weight on it to stand, which hurt like a bitch, mind you. Max wandered back to his site. His throat felt drier than a desert, so he pulled out one of the water bottles and took a gulp. He felt like one of those survivalists on TV. He guessed he was, at this point. Whatever. Max arrived back at the tent sluggishly and tossed the water into the back quarter. Max still had a little while of sunset, and God, honestly, he didn't feel safe in the shabby little plastic tent. Max picked up the axe and immediately dropped it once it came in contact with his left hand. He growled, God fucking damn it! Max lifted it with his right hand. He was going to make a little shelter, doing it with one non-dominant hand be damned. Max swung hard at the tree, like how sometimes he clotheslined people at school. It hit the tree, but it didn't chop it down like it expected it to. Max struggled with the axe for several minutes, trying to pull it out. Somehow, eventually, he got it out. Max hit it again, and it went through the same process over and over again until finally the tree fell over. Max felt a wave of accomplishment come over him before realizing he didn't have a fucking clue on what to do now. And it was getting dark. Max searched dutifully in his mind. He couldn't bring up anything in there. God damn it. He'd just have to wing it then. Max pulled the thicker, longer branches over the tent and cut them more to size fit over it. He didn't do much, really. He made the tent even more cramped and cluttered, really. It didn't even give him any security, but whatever. It was dark out now, and he didn't want to risk venturing out again tonight. Previous nights, Max hadn't noticed how fucking dark it was. But tonight, he couldn't even see his hand in the darkness. Max didn't like the dark. He wasn't scared of it. He just fucking hated it. He hated feeling helpless and vulnerable to things, and here in the dark, he certainly was. Max felt like he needed to move, but it also felt like all the blood flow stopped moving to his feet. He withheld a whimper. Fucking pussy. He clenched his teeth. Soon, that feeling passed, leaving his heart racing. Why the actual fuck did that have to happen now? Max pressed his tongue on the back of his teeth. Max shut his eyes, turning onto his one non-hurt arm, using it as a makeshift pillow. He needed sleep. He was going crazy. Max, for another night, laid there, barely lucid, but still awake in this stuffy, unsafe world. He thought his life was at its very worst before all this. Now, Max wished he could go back to that time. He didn't care if his father was neglectful. He didn't care that his mom was dead. He didn't care that he had no friends. He just wanted the humdrum of his life to come back. He wanted the monotonous whispers to be there, not the silent cicadas that screamed in his ears. But would that ever be accomplished? Fuck if Max knew. And that's it for today, guys. Those were the 2 chapters of How to Survive the Apocalypse Without Coffee. A campaign fan fiction reading. I hope you guys like this. I hope you guys enjoy this. I don't know if I'm going to post this before or after, but I do plan on doing an animation with the new bloopers that they set out, like, literally yesterday for me, but probably maybe a week ago, like, for you guys. So, I plan on doing that, and, yeah, so, instead of the next upload being this, it's gonna probably be that. Anyway, guys,